Hello everyone, another week down, another course complete. This is my series on completing and ranking every single beginner's Python course on the internet. You can see what I've done on the screen there. Let's jump straight into the review. So I'll just outline what we're going to look at today. It's going to start off with a look at the course itself. We are then going to look at the stats of the course. Once again, there will be the fun bit, the best bits that I enjoyed about the course. Finally, we'll put all the scores together to give a combined score for the course, and then we'll look on any improvements that I'd make to the course. So what is it? If you want to check out last week's video, I go over the website in relatively good depth there. However, there is one thing I wanted to show you this week, and that is that I completed this Introduction to Python course. If you go onto this courses part, you can see in programming languages, you can actually do an intermediate Python course, which I've got here. So for this one, I'm going to go pro. I'm going to do the full experience and see if having all this AI generated practice actually benefits my learning and levels up the course a little bit. That's what it is covered. Let's move on to the scoring. So the context and relevance, I'm not going to read out all of the text on these slides because that's boring as heck, but it was scored a 3. So they did slightly better from memory than learnpython.org in the text that you use and the code you use was actually themed around a topic. But again, there's no big sort of overview. Course structure, can you see it top to bottom? Is everything grouped relatively well? The answer is yes. I really liked that I could scroll through, and we'll touch on that in the fun bit actually. Content quality. So I've actually had to add this new one this week for this scoring because I realized I didn't have a metric to check off those unknown unknowns that you're trying to look at, and I felt because this was a beginner's Python course, there was a lot of stuff that we didn't actually look at, which obviously isn't very good. So for that, I've scored this a 4. You could argue because it's not a complete course that it's unfair giving it a lower rank because it sells itself as an introductory course, but it's my ranking system, so it gets a 4. Flow and interactivity. So this is the concept of being introduced into a bite-sized portion of the topic, doing some learning on that topic, enough learning to match the complexity of it, and then being quizzed on the same thing and not something different. So for this course, I gave it a 4. Now it got better towards the end, but I felt a lot of the questions were they'd sort of be multiple choice, and there was no ability to get things that wrong. I still obviously got stuff wrong, but it was very much taken away from you in regards to that interactivity. There was a real lack of actual coding within their online platform. So enough of the negativity. This is the bit I like to call the best bit, and here we look at 3 items that I really enjoyed about the course. And in this instance, there weren't a clear victor. So in third place, we had this progress bar. So I've completed the course now, so the bar is fully green, but it's just nice to see at the top of your page where you actually are. Again, I said that there wasn't anything that really excels. And the 2 items that I put in first and second place are sort of tied, but one's just above the other. So second place, we had the certificate at the end. This obviously requires like 0 effort on their behalf, but it was just really cool getting to the end of all these 6 modules and doing all your tests and getting this rubbish little PDF or JPEG. I know it means nothing, but I thought that was quite a nice touch for a free course. And then marginally above this, we've got the leaderboard. Perhaps this is something that I enjoy because I'm slightly competitive, for better or worse, but this essentially, when you get your XP, allows you to rank up in your leaderboard. I didn't have any one-upmanship with anyone. I don't recognize any of the names from each of the few times I visited, but I just thought that was a fun thing that the website allowed you to sort of rank your commitment. And this sort of subjects segues nicely into HackerRank, which might make an appearance in the future. So onwards with the review. The pacing of the course, how did I feel about that? I scored it a 7 in that it was a very short course, so you could the finish line was sort of always in sight. On some items there was a bit too much stuff, and on others there could have been a little bit more, but generally for the caliber of what was covered, I think it was fast enough, and if you commit to it for the afternoon, you can really pace through it. Production medium. So this is a category to assess the quality of the learning materials, and a note on this one that we'll come on to is that I had to recalibrate past scores. So for this, I gave it a 7. For a free platform, it's pretty good. It feels relatively premium and like it was made in the 2020s at some point. In regards to the settings and the user area and sort of closing out a course once you've opened it and what have you, it was a little bit clunky. So value, I'll let you read the things on the screen there, and let's bear in mind that we're looking at the free version of the introduction to Python. When I was going through this course, there was an overwhelming feeling of this is fine, however I am very aware that this is free and I'm not paying for it. And then Sololearn, who do have bills to pay and obviously did give it away for free, politely remind you every now and then, well, relatively frequently actually, that you're not paying and that there's loads of extra features you get. So for that reason, I gave this a 5. It was fine, but it did feel free. The je ne sais quoi. So this was a metric and this one scored out of 5. I made this as a way of capturing things that I felt like I wasn't able to capture in my previous categories. And this is for those standout features or things that just make you smile and make life a tiny bit better. So this course did the leaderboard and the certificates at the end really well, but I didn't feel like that packed enough of a punch to sort of up the scoring, which is why I only gave this one a 1. We have finished looking at the course now and all the ranks for the different categories. We've also looked at the fun bits for the course. Next up, we've got adding everything together to see a combined score and then improvements that I'd suggest for the course. So I'm looking at the slide wondering when learning Python got so exhilarating. Will Sololearn be more fun or valuable than learnpython.org? I mentioned earlier that for the production and medium, I had to moderate this down. So as I gave this a 7, it's definitely more polished than learnpython.org. And therefore I've had to drop the score here from a 7 to a 5. So those who have watched the videos in quick succession will know that the new score is now 43 out of 75. So if you're good at maths, you'll know the number behind here already. But if you've got better things to be doing than AC mental arithmetic, here is the number for you. It's 38 out of 75. So we're 5 points below the 43. And whilst I know this is sort of subjective and my opinions would probably change from week to week if I had to rescore it, but generally speaking, learnpython.org was definitely better. It's just a richer course and contains a lot more, bit more fundamental in regards to its presentation, but it definitely gets the job done. Because you're coding things yourself on your own IDE, or that's how I chose to learn it, I felt like I got a lot more value and my muscle memory, etc., improved that way, whereas Sololearn is a lot more multiple choice questions. Definitely better for children, or if you want to just dip your toe or want something that's really quick that does just the fundamentals, and we'll go on to what that looks like now actually. So my improvement suggestions, so there weren't really any for the learners because it was really difficult to bring it into your own development area. The course, if I was to write it, I'd have a lot more typing rather than these multiple choice questions with the answers really spoon-fed. They definitely have a place at the very start of the lesson, but they shouldn't be the entire lesson of just multiple choice. And for context, I think there were some lessons that I was typing like 3 letters and that was the finale. You know, you're not going to learn to code by not typing. What was actually in the course, you ask? So it works out really neatly in that the categories from learnpython.org that I said were the most fundamental ones are actually the ones that this beginner's course teaches. And that definitely highlights that learnpython.org have this 1.13 lesson in the wrong place, because if you look at 11 and 10, it's probably going to be around here somewhere, isn't it? So they definitely have that order wrong, which validates my previous thoughts. And then I feel like this diagram is quite helpful to see if I just did the beginner's course, this is what I'll learn. So I'll be really interested when I go pro to see what the advanced course covers and if I need to add categories that perhaps learnpython.org doesn't touch on, or perhaps that this still falls short and the learnpython.org course is better. And once again, it is that time of the week. It is the end of the video. So yet another exhilarating video and an exhilarating week. Progress is still going strong and I've got a fun one planned for next week, I think, slowly getting to the rhythm of things. So you can find everything we just looked at on screen in my GitHub, which is this thing here, and there was a link in the previous slide. But for now, that is it. Thanks for stopping by and have a wonderful day. Ta.